Today we're taking a look at the S.H.Figuarts Gamerverse Spider-Man. Starting off with articulation. Head looks up that far. Looks down that far. Got a bit of a side to side. Can't turn at the top very far, but you get a 360 with the base of the neck. Arm goes out like that. There's a closer look at the arm. Ball joint with a hinge. Butterfly doesn't get much, but it's okay. 360 at the bicep. 360 at the arm. Double jointed elbow. 360 at the wrist. And of course, we got a wrist hinge there. Gets you decent amount. Ab crunch goes back that far. And goes forward that far with the hips joining in. Side to side. 360. There's no waist rotation. This is all you get. Leg goes forward about that far. Goes back that far. If you go too far, this piece here kind of snaps and you have to snap it back into place. I would not recommend doing that. There's our spread. Thigh cut. Double jointed leg. Ankle pivot. There's our kick. Toe bend. Moving on to accessories, we've got two heads. It's subtle, but one is a little more wide-eyed than the other. I've been swapping them throughout filming, but unless you're looking for it, you might not notice the difference. There are 5 pairs of hands. Hammers of Justice. Key gathering. Rock-on web shooters. Prowling wall climbers. And finally, item holding, which kinda doubles as a half-hearted thumbs up if Spider-Man doesn't feel like stopping to take a picture, or Philosophy Spider-Man, where he questions why he's always miserable. There's the web line that fits in these hands but can't be used for much else. Maybe a big web sword that has no impact on hit. They can also be used to hold the web shield. You've got this handle that you fit into the hands, and then the handle fits into the ball that's fixed on the shield. There's a little tool to help you take out this little piece on Spider-Man's back to insert this accessory for his spider sense. It's novel, but works pretty decent. And the last accessory are these 2 pieces of cardboard that can be used to replicate hyper web throw. Surprisingly, looks alright to me as long as you don't turn them around and see that big old dumpy. Now for the fun part. Let's get some MVC2 poses in here. Kind of works. Eh. That looks okay. Not really. Who was actually going to pose the web head doing a crouching punch anyway? Let's talk about my gripes. This toe bend is too small for my liking. I like balancing figures, and this toe bend didn't do me any favors. A lot of the sprites have the web guy on his toes, and they were hard for me to replicate. It could hold a pose for a bit, but once the turntable starts going, it'd fall over. I could balance it on one hand. I wouldn't recommend it though. The wrist joint shouldn't have weight on it. Second gripe. Poverty Maxer should be able to bend deeper than this. That's as good as you get. I'm gonna be late for Dr. Connor's class. Twists, contorts, and bends in all kinds of crazy ways. You can't pull off any more than the startup of Hyper Web Throw because he can't be pulling something between his legs very well. It also just doesn't really look like a crunch. I want it to look like there's some exertion in a pose, not just slightly leaning forward. A third gripe. This weird T. I can turn my brain off to weird figure engineering if it serves a purpose. It does look off. Everyone has already pointed that out. But my actual problem with it is if you try to bend the leg farther up, it sort of snaps out of place, and it does sound like a snap. You can snap it back into place, but it makes me nervous nonetheless. If you're careful, you can rotate those legs even more, but I don't think it's intentional. Point is, I'd prefer if it was designed differently, as long as you don't turn them around and see that big old dumpy. Fourth gripe. No hip rotation, but that's kind of part of the whole T setup. Fifth gripe, no web ball accessory. Sixth gripe, no awesome magnet claw to put this figure wherever there's metal, like the Mezco or Reveltech. Seventh gripe, there's no stand. That being said, I was using the Tamashii stands to hold up Spider-Man for some poses, and they were really pissing me off, so maybe it's better this way. Okay, on to things I like. First thing, this figure looks good. Having the sculpt indent for the webbed on the suit is really neat. The color is also perfect for me. Just the right amount of saturation on the red and blue. It's a definitive looking Spider-Man for me. When you see this guy on a shelf, it stands out. If this was your only Spider-Man figure, you're doing alright. Second thing I like, the articulation is still pretty good. Pizza Time still has some sauce. Most of my gripes were about the articulation, but it's not all bad. I think it's hard to point out what's specifically good when it comes to articulation unless it really stands out, because good articulation just becomes part of the figure. That's probably why poor articulation stands out so much. Third thing I like, Jonah is gonna kill me is easy to handle. Figuarts is usually pretty good with that, not loose and not tight. Maybe I'd prefer the joints to be a titch tighter for longevity's sake. You do gotta use a bit of force to get the hands on and off, but seeing as the Mafex wrist peg broke on me, I'll take what's here. My buddy asked me a few years ago if I had any extra wrist pegs because he gifted this figure to his nephew and it also broke on him. That's way more egregious to me than any of the gripes about this one. Fourth thing I like, this shield is really big. Fifth thing I like, this cardboard thing actually working. That's really surprising to me. In closing, replicating sprites is hard. A piece of art isn't necessarily supposed to be replicated by its toy. Should it be able to? Probably, but to have a figure that's actually able to do some of these poses could end up looking kinda jank. I know this is the retro Spider-Man pose, but Tom Holland probably ain't doing this, right? Go stand up and try this pose yourself. Do you see how far forward this dude's head is? Rather than faithfully trying to recreate the sprite, I had more fun making my own poses with the figure or just opting for something close enough. Out of the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse I have, the Reveltech is still slightly better to me just because of how well it can pose. But the S.H.Figuarts Gamerverse America Man looking as good as it does makes it a close second. Have fun with your toys, as long as you don't turn them around and see that big old dumpy. Why'd I call him America Man? Brother, that's the American superhero. His life sucks and he has bills to pay.